Warren Cutler, Tzaddik Bracha, the Sefer Mishnah Zaron, was printed, asks a very fundamental question. He asks, why is it like Kabbalas HaTorah, Aga Shavuos, we don't do anything in the world, we don't do any mice and mitzvah to celebrate Shavuos? In the year 2448, they gave Klal Yisrael the greatest gift in the world that anybody can give. That's Rebbe Shem's Torah. That's Rebbe Shem's Chachma from Maser Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it was given to the Aman Nivchar to Klal Yisrael. And yet, on this unbelievable day of Shavuos, he says, Es Trabar, we don't do anything, no mice and mitzvah to remember the incredible historical fact that on this day, which represents the Emunah and Emunah on Kodesh Baruch Hu from Klal Yisrael, we believe, unbelievable Emunah that we have in the Bari Elam, gave us his Torah, and yet we don't do any mitzvah whatsoever to symbolize it, to internalize it, to remember that incredible day. Yes, Rabbi, even further, if you look at the other Yom Tovim in our Torah, you take Chag HaMatzos, you take Pesach, you do a Maisa Mitzvah. You see us from trying, we eat Matzah, it's a Deraisa. Take Arba Kaises, we do many mitzvahs every year in, year out. We sit by a Seder for hours to internalize, we should never forget. You see us from trying whatsoever. Sukkahs, we sit in a Sukkah to remember Klal Yisrael throughout the 40 years in the wilderness, he sat in a Sukkah. So there are always things in these Yom Tovim that we do to internalize them, to always never to make sure we never forget them. Yes, Bar, how is it? Chag Matan Torah, Emunah Yisrael, Bari Yom, Panim al Panim Adaber. Klal Yisrael came face to face with the Bari Yom, whatever that means, we don't even understand. At that time, the Rebbe Shalom gave us his Torah. Not one iota was Zikaron for the day of the Emunah of Klal Yisrael and Bari Yom. That's Shaila Rabbi asks. Answers the Goyen Rabbi, one of the most brilliant Rosh Yeshivas in the world in the last 100 years. But Rabbi, there's a tremendous difference, he says, giving Kabbalas HaTorah and the other Yom Tovim. Rabbi says, because the truth of the matter is that the historical fact of Yetzias Mitzrayim was something that happened once in the history of the world. It happened one time, it took place at that time. Says Rabbi, there's a special mitzvah miyuchad that we can never ever forget Yetzias Mitzrayim. You have to be able to make a Zikaron from Mitzrayim forever and forever to internalize it in the minds of Klal Yisrael. It happened once, and if we don't repeat it year in and year out, very possible Klal Yisrael would forget about it. Sukkahs we sit at also, we can forget about it as time goes on. Says Rabbi, no. It is completely different, he says, when it comes to Shavuos, when it comes to Zman Matan Torah. Ask Rabbi another question. The interesting thing he says, Rabbi, is the Chag, Matan Torah. Shavuos is never referred to in the Torah as Zman Matan Torah, like we say in Tefillah. But it's called in the Torah Chag HaBikurim. There's no mention on that day that has anything to do whatsoever. But we have to remember that was the day that the Torah was given. Says Rabbi, and the truth of the matter is, Kabbalas HaTorah is totally different. See, Mitzrayim happened once. If you don't chazer it over, we don't make a Zikaron year in and year out, possibly we'll forget about it. It's ingrained, it has to be a part of Klal Yisrael. And the only way we can do it is by doing things that internalize it, doing Maisa Mitzvahs, of eating matzah year in, year out. Makas Mechayrus, the Mechayrus, Tefillah, everything to remember that incredible day of Yetzias Mitzrayim. So after Bar, no, when it comes, he says, to Shavuos. So after Bar, what happened that day? In the year 2448. The Bari Yom came and gave us his Torah. Torah is Chachmasa Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's no greater gift in the history that the Rebbe Shalom picked us out to be his Aman Nivchar. He made, that was the day that Maimon Arsina, the Klal Yisrael got Kedusha Yisrael, his Mekadosh. He gave us his Torah to this nation. Says Rabbi, what does Torah represent? Torah represents something Giluyim. It represents the way the Rebbe Shalom at that time gave over to Klal Yisrael. That when you learn the Torah, in the Torah, everything but everything. The whole world, all the chokhmas in the world, all the chokhmas, whether astronomy, astrology, everything is an unteheilu Torah. That's the makor of all the chokhmas in the world. That's what the very Elam Shem gave to Klal Yisrael. All the Giluyim that are in the Torah, at that time, Beri Elam gave it to Klal Yisrael was Hamad Ivcha. Sokt Rav, if so, he says Rav, that when it comes to Kabbalah HaTorah, and he says it's not a one-time thing that happened in the history of Klal Yisrael. Every single day, Sokt Rav, that a Yid opens up a Gemara, a Yid opens up a Chumash, a Yid opens up a Tanakh or a Medrash. He comes in contact with Mamish, with Maimed Har Sinai, because every single day, the Giluyim that the Beri Olam was Megala in Klal Yisrael 2,448 years ago, he's constantly Megala in Klal Yisrael every single time they learn his Torah. All the Giluyim then are still here day in, day out. The Rebbe Yisrael wasn't just a Nosan Torah, he's a Noisan Torah, the Bracha says, because he's constantly giving every time. The Chazdei HaGol, we punish him every single time we learn his incredible Torah. We see new things, the same Giluyim, the same revelations that they had on Maimed Har Sinai thousands of years ago. The Rebbeinu Shalom, the Chazdei HaGol gives it to us day in and day out when Klal Yisrael opens up his Torah and learns it. That's the way Rabbi says is the chiluk between Kabbalah HaTorah and the other Yom Tovim. Some Rabbi, as in the Ramban and his Akdama to Chumash, Shlomo HaMelech Chacham Mikol Adam. Where did Shlomo HaMelech get all this Chacham? Shlomo HaMelech didn't go to Harvard, he never went to Princeton, he never went to Yale, he never went to high school, he never went to junior high school. He got it, says the Ramban in his Akdama, because of Torah. He learned the Torah, and all the Chachmas HaTorah was given to Shlomo HaMelech. Everything he learned from the Heilig Torah. The Barn Couple say that the basic foundation of what Maimed Har Sinai was all about is that the British Lion's Chachma, his Torah, begin over to Klal Yisrael day in, day out, every single time when he gives learns. And I just mentioned the Ramban is in Sefer Mishnah Zarin says that the Ramban says in Chumash that even the Chacham Mikol Adam, Shlomo HaMelech didn't get it because he learned any Chachmas Keteris. He got it because of the Chachmas HaTorah. But the Heilige Rabbi Kotler, that the world over 200 years ago marveled over a genius of a certain Jew. His name was the Vilna Goyim. Even the Goyim in the world heard about this little rabbi who lives in a little town called Vilna that doesn't have a speck on the map of the world. People went to him. Great Chachamim, Chachmei Umasoilim went, and they were astounded at the total genius of the Vilna Goyim. In our own generation, there's a Yid that's sitting in Bnei Brak, definitely one of the wonders, not only of today's world, one of the wonders in the history of the world. I saw lately that somebody showed me one of his sworn diagrams, astrology, astronomy. He never went to college in his life, he never went to high school, never went to junior high school. Chachmas HaTorah, that's where he got it. Our Torah is the source of all the Chachma of the Rebbeinu Shalom's Chachma. That's what Rabbi says what Chag HaShavuos is all about. And the Mela, since that's what it's all about, every single day, says Rabbi, you only internalize something, you only make us something as Zikaron up to Rabbi. If you can, it happened once and it can be forgotten. But if somebody is with us every single day, that historical fact is with us every day. Open up a Gemara, open up a Medrash. The same Giluyim, what Rabbi revealed to Klal Yisrael then, he reveals it every single day. When we open up a Torah, we get the same exact things over there. Take the Torah in Parshas V'Eschanan. Up the Torah over here. As a Dvorma Eden Dibra Hashem, Kol Kahalken, Shahar, Yitoich Ha'esh, Anam, Arofim, Kol Godel V'lo Yasa, so the Heilige Kletzker, Lekeder, Shiva. What do these words mean? Kol Godel V'lo Yasa, it's said by the Aseres HaDibros. What does the word V'lo Yasa mean? What does it mean? So the Targum Onkelis, it means V'lo Posak. It means that the Torah that was given then doesn't mean it didn't come to an end. Below Pasach means it never stops. There's no hefsek in unser Torah. The Rebbeinu Shalom is a constant noisen HaTorah. He's constantly giving it over to Klal Yisrael every day, every minute, every hour. The Klal Yisrael learns the Daf Yomi or anything else what there is. The Rebbeinu Shalom's Chochmah is coming down from Maimon Har Sinai just like then. It's a replay. The whole thing is coming back all over again. The Kol HaTorah never ever from Maimon Har Sinai doesn't stop. You make a Zikaron for something that happened and it could be forgotten, like we see us Mitzrayim. But what happened by Maimon Har Sinai is every single day the Rebbeinu Shalom gives his Chochmah. He shares it with his Am HaNivchar. And that's the way he's up to the paragraph. He's touches it up over here, but like Pasach. It's a murdic thing. A murdic thing. When I first came here, my colleagues of Gesundheit and asked me to say this, the Chevra Shas here. And at the time, I saw the people who were attending it as time went along. And I always used to marvel. And then I saw the age. And then I went back. Mr. Gottlieb said, Tzaddik Levracha, Yosef Gottlieb, close to 100 years old. Let's go back 100 years old in history. What did the United States of America look in the early 1900s? And now when I speak about Rabbi Yosef Gottlieb, I don't just want to mention him. He had a brother, Rabbi Emmanuel, also Gottlieb, also. And he had two brother-in-laws. Unbelievable. Two brother-in-laws. Mr. Pincus and Mr. Moshe Mesh. Unbelievable, four incredible individuals that were born in the early 1900s. Difficult times, the reform movement with all their courses were taking over. The conservatives with their courses were taking over. The yeshivish movement in America was very weak. It wasn't here. You didn't have the Rameshas, you didn't have the Rabarns, you didn't have the yeshivas, you didn't have the Lakewoods. And yet everybody, I remember when I was a child, my father's shul in Philadelphia, to the tragedy, I used to hear the way these people were all Europeans, obviously spoke Yiddish among each other. Shabbos morning, Rahman al-Islan after davening, without filling in the lines, you know yourself what they used to do and what happened after that. But Lamaisa, when you have to feed your children and your wives and you have to bring home and put food on the table, they had no choice because if they wouldn't do it, they didn't have a job. Within a few hours, they were told never to come back. What does he do to crying babies and crying children? But yet there were Yechidim and Klal Yisrael in the United States of America. But they heard the pasuk Kol Gadol V'lo Yosaf V'lo Posach, with all the negatives and everything against them. They were Meiser Nefesh for the Rebbeinu Shalom and his Torah. That was Mr. Yosef Gottlieb. That was his brother. That was his two brother-in-laws. And I must say that whoever their parents and this family was had to be extraordinary people to be able to raise two son-in-laws and two sons in those days. And all of them should be Uraim and Shleiman. Their kids are Uraim and Shleiman. Their Einaklach are Uraim and Shleiman. Ein L'chad, there's no greater Zikaron to point out that in those terrible times and all the things that were against them, they were still Meiser Nefesh because they heard the call from Maimon Har Sinai, Kol Gadol V'lo Yosaf, V'lo Posach, the Rabbi said. When Mr. Gottlieb heard at 7:30 at night, no New York Times got in his way, no radio, no news, no TV. Below Pasach, we have to go learn in the Chevra Shas. When it had to come every morning that he got to go hear the Daf Yomi, he almost never missed it. No such thing, never. Bibal, the Torah says, not by Torah, called Gadol Yosef, it's Loi Pasach. Nothing got in his way. Nothing got in his brother's way. Nothing got in the ways of his brother-in-law. There was such a thing, a Keseder thing when it came to the Rebbeinu Shalom. That voice came from Maimon Har Sinai. They heard it, he heard it, and guess what? Against all the odds and everything else, he's Meiser Nefesh to go learn the Beri Olam's Torah. There's a Murdik Orach Chaim in today's Sedra, a Murdik Orach Chaim. The Orach Chaim brings down in today's Sedra, in Kapitel Yud Dalet, Pasuk Chav Dalet. In today's parsha, Shlach Lecha, there's a whole ma'aseh of the Nisim going out. The Nisim, the greatest people in the history, among the greatest Yidden that ever lived. Nisi Hashem, they were sent to Eretz Yisrael. And even when they came back, says the Heilig Nitzif, they didn't say any lies. They didn't say one word about Eretz Yisrael that wasn't true. But what they instilled in the Jewish people scared them enough that they didn't want to go. Comes along the Orach Chaim. The Torah says over here, in Kapitel Yud Dalet, Pasuk Chav Dalet, Shnei the Torah ba'avdi kolev. and my servant Cohen. Ekev, hoyasa ruach acheres imoy, v'yamalu acharai, v'yisrael ha'aretz asher bo Shomrei v'zara yorishenu. Hum tehela gorachayim, and he asks a few of questions. Why does the Torah say over here, Buri Olam, the Rebbeinu Shalom said, on this pasuk, Avdi Kolev, Kolev, he's going to come in. He is the one I'm going to let. The other ones, sorry, you're not getting in Teretz Yisrael. Kolev, he's going to come in Teretz Yisrael. Why, says the Torah, Eikav asher hoyisa ruach hakeres imo. Ask the Hela Gorachayim. Two things. Number one, only Kolev, what happened to Yeshua? And why does the Torah refer to Kolev with the words of Avdei Kolev? Avdei Kolev, what happened to Avdei Yeshua? Yeshua also was the one who put up against the Messiah, and also said that Eretz Yisrael is perfect, we should definitely go in. Why only is Kolev given that name of Avdei Kolev and not Yeshua? So the Hela Gorachayim, I'm going to read it out for you in a few seconds. He says the following. Avdei Kolev, Zorah Chadas, Lomo lo Hisker, Elo Kolev lo Yeshua. Why was only Kolev and not Yeshua? And what are the words? Asks the Hela Gorachayim. What are these words in the pasuk? How do you read this? Ekev asher hoyasa ruach hakeres imo. What does it mean? Hoyasa ruach hakeres. What does it mean? Zok the Hela Gorachayim the pshat lazay. Zok the Emunah, zok the Gorachayim, that the truth of the matter is that Yeshua be nun. Only two people in the Torah are referred to with the name of Eved. One was Kolev, and one was Moshe Rabbeinu. Loi ken avdi Moshe b'kol beisi ne'amah. What is this expression of being an Eved Hashem? So up the Hela Gorachayim to Yeshua, the Torah didn't say it. So up the Hela Gorachayim, why wasn't it said by Yeshua? Because the pasuk previously in the parsha over here says, by Yeshua, it says Moshe Rabbeinu. By Yikra Hosea, they called him Yehoshua. It says Rashi added a Yud, and he gave him a bracha that the Buri Olam, the Rebbeinu Shalom, Hashem should always protect him. Protect Yeshua. So if the Hela Gorachayim, you know why Yeshua wasn't included? The truth of the matter is, learns off the Orachayim in the Psukim here. But the pasuk says over here, V'avdi Kolev Eikav Hoyasa Ruach Hacheres. Lechatchila, Rashi says at the very beginning, before Yehoshua, before Kolev, Vayas Kolev, as Sa'am El Moshe says in Rashi, hold it, what's going on over here? Yehoshua gets up Kolev to make a drasha, and then he tries to quiet down the people, and he gives them the pressure. What does Al Moshe mean? Says Rashi, the word Al Moshe means Bishmaya Mashidaber Moshe. Zalal B'Yomar, Achein Zu Bilvad. He wanted to get their attention. The only way he could have gotten their attention, says Rashi, is by doing something that would seem that he's agreeing with them. That's not what he meant, but that's the way he did it. He tried to do something to show that maybe he was agreeing with them. And because of that, he told them, that's not the only thing Moshe did. Moshe gave us the Torah, Moshe Korah Hayam, Moshe Hevi Lana was Haman, and he gave us, he split the Yam, he goes on was Hashlov. That's the way he got it. So at first says the Hela Gorachayim. The truth of the matter here, in Kapitel Yudaleh, when he, Avdi, Kolev, meant to say that at the very beginning, Ekev, it's a shlach, a compliment. At first it seemed maybe Kolev was joining the other 10 Messiah, and he was leaning towards them. But the pasuk said, by the Male Acharai, afterwards, the real thing was he meant the 100%. Kolev was 100% after, says the Orachayim. Where do I get this pshat in the pasuk? And when the pasuk says, where do I get this to say that it seemed that Kolev was noited? He seemed to be leaning like the other spies and to talk against Moshe, not to go into Eretz Yisrael. Says the Hela Gorachayim, because the truth of the matter is what happened was, where did Kolev go? Kolev went to heaven. He went to the form of the Hela Govis. He went to the form of the Hela Gimoyas, and he was mispalel to them, please save me from this sorrow that I'm going to get into. Yeshua didn't do it. Explains the Orachayim, why didn't Yeshua do it? Explains the Orachayim, because Yeshua had Moshe's bracha. He was totally protected with Moshe's bracha. Kolev didn't have that bracha. Kolev had to do it on his own. And because Cohen had to do it on his own, he went to his pal of Kivrei Tzaddik by the Heilig office and he moist. And that, because of his tefillah, was ongoing. And he married Miriam at the time. Because of that, state in the pasuk over here. The pasuk says, therefore the pasuk says over here by Cohen, that Cohen was the one that went into Eretz Yisrael together, because he was the one, he was called Avdi Koli, because he was the one, he didn't start off with a silver spoon in his mouth. He was knighted to go with the other Nisim. They were great individuals, they all stood by Maimon Har Sinai. But afterwards what happened is Koli went to his pal and saw that the Dvar Hashem was the emes. And because of that, he was called Avdi Koli. Moshe Rabbeinu says the Heilig Baruch Chaim was not born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Punk fakert. Moshe also had whatever Nisayon was. He became the Eved Hashem. To become an Eved Hashem is up the Heilig Baruch Chaim. Yoshua didn't have it because Yoshua had a bracha from Moshe Rabbeinu. He should never get entrapped in what the other Nisayon wanted to do. Kalev didn't have that bracha. Moshe, when he was born in Beis Chaparo, didn't have that bracha where he grew up. So Mamela Moshe was called Eved Hashem. He was called Eved Hashem. Somebody that has Nisyonis explains the Heilig Baruch Chaim, that is an emes Eved Hashem. Again, going back 100 years ago, to see these four unbelievable individuals, all of them stayed with all the Nisyonis in front of them, all the Nisyonis that were in front of them, and they could have gone away. They overcame them, and they all withstood them, and they were all Maimed Beiris of Erlich children and Erlich Einav. It's a Gavaldik Ischus. I remember in the 1990s, I heard the story. Mr. Pink is Zecher Tzaddik L'Brachim. Was on his way, Tony's going to Eretz Yisrael. He's taking $1 million check. $1 million check. He said he's taking $1 million check. I couldn't believe what I heard. I said, what's the shot? He said, I got $1 million from Joseph Bruce, Zecher Tzaddik L'Brachim. Where is he taking it? He's taking it to the Panovich Rosh Yeshiva, Rashach for the Panovich Yeshiva. Unbelievable story. He says he's going, and Rashach called him, told him he wants to know when he's arriving. He moved that time from Gurion. He said he wants to come and be Makabel Panim, and get the check from him, but he wants to be Makabel Panim because he's doing such a chesed, bringing such an enormous check in. Of course, Mr. Binker refused him. He told me that every time he came to Yisrael, Rashach always said the same exact thing, that he wants to go down and see Rashach wants to be Makabel Panim. To show you the Torah and the chesed of this family. That not only the Torah that they were, but also all the chesed that they did also. And Hashem should help Mr. Gottlieb, Rabbi Yosef Gottlieb, and his brother, and his two brother-in-laws, who used to learn here for years and years. Should be Melitza Yosher, their families, everybody here in Shomrei Emunah, all of everybody in Klal Yisrael. We all should be safe to see the Buddha here.